Hello and welcome. Tonight, flight operations in the country may be disrupted in the coming days as airline unions threaten to shut down the industry over a hike in aviation fuel. Minister of Aviation asks unions to shelve the action. Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele rejects all Progressive Congress APC forms fought for him as 28 coalition groups pay for nomination forms for AFDB President Akinwumi Adesina. 45-year-old female presidential aspirant on the Young Progressive Party YPP declares for president, says she will stop Nigeria from borrowing to finance budget. A family in Anambra State asked the Inspector General of Police to intervene over a missing suspect in police custody. And Ukraine says all women, children and the elderly have been evacuated from Mariupol steelworks encircled by Russian forces. And on business news tonight, United Nations Food Agency says global food prices eased slightly in April after hitting a record high in March. The Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, is appealing to domestic airlines to suspend the planned shutdown of operations from Monday, May the 9th. In a statement issued by the Ministry of Aviation, the minister asked the operators to consider the multiplier effect of the suspension on travelers. His reactions come on the heels of the announcement by the airline operators of Nigeria to stop their services following a rise in aviation fuel, amongst other costs. The price of aviation fuel has risen from 190 naira per litre to 700 naira per litre.
Monday, the 9th of May, may be the first of its kind, and it's looking like a tough day for the aviation sector in Nigeria, as airline operators have threatened to shut operations over the perennial increase in the cost of aviation fuel, which has hit 700 naira per litre. Aviation union representatives at this briefing appear to be in support.
Our unions stand with the airline operators of Nigeria, and we call on the federal government to put their acts together quickly enough to save our industry. It's important to stress that the backbone of aviation anywhere in the world are the airlines.
Before now, the airline operators had listed the issues of high cost of foreign exchange, as well as its non-availability, custom processes for imported spare parts, lack of parking facilities for aircraft, bird strike, and multiple entries for foreign carriers as part of their challenges.
Everything we need as airlines to operate safely come from abroad. We must procure this dollar under the weight of forex challenges. And unless something is done as quickly as possible, airlines might be forced to close shop.
While Ibom Air has announced that it will not shut operations owing to its obligations to its suppliers, financiers and staff, aviation unions are adamant on a two-day warning strike on the 9th and 10th of May to drive home the need for implementation of new conditions of service. If the warning strike goes through, there will be no air traffic control services, ramp checks will be non-existent, and weather information may not be available.
A warning sign as against an indefinite strike, so that it can be attended to. So if after 1 week of the call-off of the warning strike, we do not hear anything from the quarters that can address and resolve these problems, then we will have no choice than to go for an indefinite strike action.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Aviation, in a press statement, sympathizes with airline operators, but appeals to them to consider the multiplier effect of shutting operations on Nigerian and global travelers.
A family in Anambra State is calling the attention of the Inspector General of Police to the sudden disappearance of a suspect in custody of the State Police Command. The suspect, Mr. Adubim Okonkwo,
was among those paraded by the command on March the 15th over allegations of being a cultist, but now no one seems to know his whereabouts. The family is asking to be allowed to at least see him to ascertain his state of health.
The usual police parade of suspects, and this is taking place at the Anambra State Police Headquarters in Awka, the state capital. Journalists are set to get information on what brought the suspects to this point.
How if the police will still get the deity?
One case is looking unusual, and that's of 45-year-old Adubim Okonkwo. He's being paraded for alleged involvement in cultist activities. But his facial expression speaks volumes. He appears to be oblivious of any activity involving him and the cultists.
We appreciate the fact that he can shout and make all the noise.
The State Commissioner of Police, Echeng, alleged that Adubim and one other suspect have been terrorizing security agencies and residents.
We discover, based on intelligence, that he is the one that at all times that there's a strike around that axis, he is the one that calls them, gives them the information that the place is free for them to come in and go out. He didn't know also that we were monitoring him. Investigation is ongoing. We are not saying he's guilty. The law and the court will say whether he's guilty or not based on what we are able to come out.
Months after, the family of Adubim Okonkwo have raised the alarm over his disappearance from police custody.
You picked him up at the park. Now you went and lined different kinds of guns before him. And from the picture that I saw, the man was raising up his hands to ask what he did. And from information that we gathered, he was asking them what he did. Nobody ever told him. And then thereafter, they took him away. It now looks as if an animal has been taken away. Now, he just took him away, and we've been asking questions, and nobody wants to say anything.
Ebere is the wife of the missing suspect. All she's asking is to have contact with the father of her 22-month-old baby.
Going to one police station to the other, looking for my husband, and since then, nothing. Nothing has appeared, no reply of seeing him face to face. He did not even listen to me at all. He did not give me any attention at all. He was like, go and look for him in so-so police, go and look for him in so-so. But when I went with my lawyer, I would not see him there.
However, efforts to speak with the police commissioner met a brick wall, and a promise by him to return the call was not kept.
I want federal government, President Muhammad Buhari, IG, IGP, to help me and look for my husband for me. If it is dead, let me know. If it's still alive, let me know. I'm calling on behalf of the whole Nigeria to help me out on this case. What will I tell my kids? What will I tell them where their father is? Please, I'm begging on behalf of you people to help me out of this case.
No doubt, a tense season for the family, but Nigerians are more curious about the whereabouts of this suspect and why he has been kept away from the family for this long.
To politics now. The governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, says he has mapped out an agenda to stamp out banditry in Katsina State and other parts of the country. That's if elected president. Governor Wike also pledged to produce real and quick improvement in the lives of Nigerians by aggressively resolving insecurity and creating a conducive environment for economic activities to thrive. Governor Wike, who is the presidential aspirant of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, stated this while addressing Katsina State PDP delegates, as well as their leaders, at the party's secretariat in the state capital. The meeting with the party leaders and delegates today is his second visit to the state in 4 days.
The Federal Republic of Nigeria state. Is there any project for federal government? No. Do you have security in Katsina State? No. The only project they brought to you is bandits. I am saying this now so that when people come to you, they tell you, you see, I'm from north, I'm from south, I'm from east, I'm from west, no more. no more. You require somebody who will give you security in Katsina State. You require somebody who will bring projects to Katsina State. You require somebody who will appreciate the people of Katsina State. This election we are going to with somebody who has the courage, somebody who can stand firm, somebody who can withstand APC and win APC in the election.
A former vice president and presidential aspirant on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, is continuing his consultation as he visits Southwest delegates to seek their support. He was at the office of one of the leaders of the party, Chief Olabode George. The former vice president said it's important for the PDP in Lagos State to be united ahead of the general elections.
Lagos PDP has been plagued by perennial disunity for several years today. I have appealed to the leaders and elders inside that small parlor. I'm appealing to you as members of the party to give them the support they need to unify this party. If we don't unify it, if we don't bring about unity, this one that you want to take over Lagos, we will not take over Lagos. Please, I beg you to ensure that Lagos PDP is united so that we can achieve the success that is associated with unity.
PDP presidential aspirant Mr. Mohammed Hayatudeen says he's feeling confident about picking the presidential ticket of his party and is not in any way intimidated by the caliber of contestants. He says his confidence received a boost after interacting with delegates from Bauchi and Yobe State. He believes the contest will be held in a civil manner and they will reach an understanding eventually. Mr. Hayatudeen also speaks about his plans to tackle insecurity and improve the economy if he becomes the president.
I stand a huge chance because, one, the country is in deep trouble, and I believe I essentially have the credentials to be able to run for president and win. The second thing is that I've given this very deep and thoughtful reflection, and that's why I decided to join the race, because I believe that I can make a huge difference to the fortunes of this country. Nigerians should expect me to resolve very quickly the huge national security problems that are confronting this country. Second, we have a dysfunctional economy, and the idea is to actually rebuild this economy from the ground up.
Another presidential aspirant running on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, that's Chief Momodu, has paid a visit to the Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence Saad Abubakar III. Chief Momodu and his team were warmly received at the palace of the Sultan in the inner chamber, where they discussed and sipped from his wisdom. The next day, the monarch and Chief Momodu attended a program at the UK Jama Academy, an education and charity organization that offers aid to orphans and the less privileged. The monarch disclosed that about 170 lives are currently being transformed at the institution. In part two, after the break, female presidential aspirant on the platform of the Young Progressive Party, YPP, declares for president. That's in a moment. Join us again. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. flight operations in the country may be disrupted in the coming days as airline unions threaten to shut down the industry over hike in aviation fuel. Minister of Aviation asks unions to shelve the action. Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele rejects all Progressive Congress forms brought for him as 28 coalition groups pay for APC presidential nomination forms for AFDB President Akinwumi Adesina. 45-year-old female presidential aspirant on the Young Progressive Party YPP declares for president, says she will stop Nigeria from borrowing to finance budget. A family in Anambra State asked the Inspector General of Police to intervene over a missing suspect in police custody. And Ukraine says all women, children and the elderly have been evacuated from Mariupol steelworks, surrounded by Russian forces. For presidential hopeful Ruby Chineye, tackling the country's security challenges will be top on her list if elected president. She made the declaration to contest for the position on the platform of the Young Progressive Party, YPP, at the party secretariat in Abuja. The 45-year-old financial expert also hopes to boost the country's economy by stopping borrowing to finance budget deficit and boosting local production.
Now is the time to put Nigeria among the Committee of Nations that will be envied by even the so-called world power. I want us to understand that you do not need a rich man to rule Nigeria. Yes. You do not need a rich man to lead Nigeria. Yes. What we need in Nigeria is a man with sense. Yes. And I'm here offering myself. By the grace of God, we've been able to dig deep and see a lot of ways we can bring in solutions. Now, for security problem, I am promising Nigerians, by the grace of God, that my first day in office, nobody goes to sleep. If you are a security operative, know that the first day Ruby is being sworn to power, you do not go to sleep. Why? Because that is the first thing we are going to handle. As a matter of fact, it is an emergency.
Meanwhile, a coalition of 28 groups consisting of bodies in the diaspora and others in Nigeria today paid for the nomination and expression of interest forms for Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, President of the African Development Bank and Nigeria's former Minister of Agriculture. Our correspondent gathered that the group approached the APC Secretariat in Abuja this evening, paid for the forms, but could not collect them because of late arrival. However, sources say a payment acknowledgement slip bearing the name of Dr. Adesina was issued to the group as they are expected to return and pick the forms at a later date. Dr. Adesina is an economist who is currently serving as the president of the African Development Bank and previously served as the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development under the former president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan. And within 4 years of his appointment, he turned the agricultural sector of the country around. Barely 24 hours after some Nigerians said to be supporters of the CBN governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, picked his expression of interest and nomination forms to contest for the position of president on the platform of the APC, the CBN boss says he's still awaiting divine direction on whether or not he will run. Expressing this position on his Twitter handle today, he salutes the sacrifices of all those who have raised funds for him to contest. Part of the tweet reads, "I am humbled by the growing interest of those asking that I run for the office of president in the 2023 general elections. I have not come to that decision. I note and salute the sacrifices of those farmers and patriots going as far as raising personal funds and offering me presidential nomination forms. I thank them most profusely. However, should I answer their calls and decide to seek presidential nominations, I will use my own hard-earned savings from over 35 years of banking leadership to buy my own nomination forms without proxies, in an open and transparent manner, in full compliance with the laws and constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And should I not run for the elected office, I will continue to serve and sacrifice for the good of the people of Nigeria under the able leadership of President Mohammed Buhari. This is a serious decision that requires God's divine intervention. In the next few days, the Almighty so direct. That age-long bond of unity that held the Southwest together politically came to bear again at the weekend as elders of the party convened a meeting of all presidential aspirants on the platform of the All Progressive Congress to reel out guidelines on how they should pursue their campaign ahead of the 2023 elections. The conveners of the meeting are APC leaders Chief Bisi Akonde and Chief Segun Oshoba. In attendance are the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, and Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The meeting agreed that the ultimate goal for all in attendance is that the presidency must come to the Southwest.
APC presidential aspirant and national leader of the party, Senator Bola Tinubu, is the first to arrive at the Lagos House in Marina. He is closely followed by other aspirants, including the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Also in attendance is the Ekiti State Governor, Dr. Kayode Fayemi. They are here for a crucial meeting called by the party for its presidential aspirants from the Southwest and others considered critical to the 2023 presidential elections, including the host governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, as well as his colleagues from Ondo, Osun and Ogun states. Others present at this meeting are the Ministers of Interior, Works and Housing, Industry, Trade and Investment, and other Southwest APC delegates. Having been busy in the last couple of weeks meeting party delegates about their ambition, the Vice President and national leader of the party get to exchange pleasantries. Other aspirants that were able to make it just in time is the former governor of Ogun State, Ibikunle Amosu, who flew in from Abuja shortly after picking up his nomination form. At the end of the stakeholders meeting, which lasted for about 2 hours, the former interim chairman of the APC, Chief Bisi Akonde, says the APC Southwest will work as a team to produce the next president from the region.
We are having, a reason to let you know that we are united on purpose, and the purpose is to ensure that the presidency of Nigeria in 2023 will come to Southwest.
However, he appeals to aspirants to see the bigger picture of the region's presidential ambition and not engage in politics of hostility or bitterness when addressing members of the public.
All of us must talk to ourselves and to the public with absolute decorum because we are united.
Brother. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As more aspirants pick up the APC nomination and expression of interest forms, the party is also stepping up preparations for the big event that will see the emergence of its presidential flag bearer.
A trustworthy and dependable leader. That's how the Minister of Transportation and frontline APC presidential aspirant, Chibike Amechi, has been described by the Cross River State Governor. Professor Ben Ayade stated this in his office in Calabar while playing host to Mr. Amechi and his team.
Honorable Chibike Amechi and his political associates are in Cross River State, South-South geopolitical zone of Nigeria, to consult with various stakeholders ahead of the 2023 presidential race. The presidential hopeful restates his conviction that he's the most qualified of all the aspirants on the platform of the All Progressives Congress.
What I therefore is that I'm 56 years old, so I'm among the young candidates of the party. I'm not the youngest, I'm not the oldest, but I'm the most experienced. Of all the aspirants, both in PDP and APC, I'm the most experienced.
Governor Ayade, who is also an APC presidential aspirant, appreciates Mr. Amechi for having the interest of the state at heart and commends his commitment to serving the nation.
He has shown commitment to the state, and I say this with all sincerity. He has also shown very outstanding sense of brotherhood. From the time I moved into APC, he said, "You are our leader, we will work with you, and at any point in time, we will always work together.
Defender of the Christian faith.
The next stop is the Palace of the Obong of Calabar, His Eminence Adubim Okonkwo, and the message remains that he is the man for the job.
Don't vote for me because I'm from South-South. Vote for me because I have the capacity to deliver.
The monarch commends Amechi for his bold step and expresses faith that the best person will emerge as president.
We are with all of you. We know God is the only person that will actually bring out a leader. We are human beings. So we'll talk to the delegates to make sure that they pick the right person for us.
The team meets with delegates of the All Progressives Congress in the state, where they are also well received.
He who pelts another with pebbles should not only ask for rock in return, he should be given a mountain that is an equivalent of Kilimanjaro. Today I stand to say that in Cross River State, you are one man we can boldly stand up and say, you are politically merchantable. It will not be a difficult product for us to sell.
And to wrap up activities for the day, Mr. Amechi holds a meeting to consult with the Traditional Rulers Council of Cross River State in Calabar.
From politics to other issues now, the National Assembly recently amended the Terrorism Prevention Act 2013. The proposed legislation is intended to provide measures for the detection, prevention and prohibition of terrorism in the country, as well as outlaw the payment and collection of ransom by abductors for the release of their victims. In this next report, our correspondent Linda Akigwe examines the bill and its implication on the war on terrorism.
Nigerians have endured terrorist attacks for more than a decade, with significant loss of human lives and utter destruction of properties. Most of these bombings have been attributed to Boko Haram insurgents. However, on November 26, 2021, a federal high court in Abuja rules that the activities of bandits, as well as other similar groups in any part of the country, amounts to acts of terrorism, and the federal government subsequently declared bandits terrorists.
The proposed amendment, no doubt.
On April 27, 2022, the Senate passed a bill seeking to amend the Terrorism Prevention Act 2013. The House of Representatives followed suit on May 4th. The amendment seeks to outlaw the collection of ransom by abductors for the release of victims. Funds, federal lawmakers say, is often channeled towards terrorist acts.
The proposed amendment, no doubt, will set standards and regulatory system intended to prevent terrorist groups from laundering money through the banking system and other financial networks.
Although one of the aims of amending the Terrorism Prevention Act is to prohibit the payment and receipt of ransom to release kidnapped victims, the bill is silent specifically on penalties for those who pay ransom for the release of victims.
In the clean copy that we have now, before it goes back to the House for the final debate, I don't see any mention of ransom. Because you will not tell me that payment of ransom is what the victims of a kidnap desire. No, they desire that the security forces will go into that bush and bring back their family members, their friends. So for a man to pay ransom, for a woman to pay ransom, is indicative of the failure of security.
Section 14 of the bill states that any person who arranges and participates in an activity connected with a terrorist group, collects or provides logistics or information connected with an act of terrorism, solicits or renders support for a terrorist group or an act of terrorism, commits an offence and is liable on conviction to imprisonment for a term of not less than 20 years.
When you make provisions to ask that those who assist by one way or make provision or help the terrorist or a kidnapper will be punished for not less than 20 years or 15 years, and you don't clearly state what you meant by assistance, then you leave that ambiguity for those who enforce the law to even abuse it.
The federal government, as well as some state governments and the legislature, have over the years put together some counter-terrorism measures. However, security experts suggest some other ways to fight terrorism.
If a government is not accountable to the people, does not show justice, there is no equality, there is no equity of the Commonwealth, destroy of the Commonwealth, then you lack the moral right to want to protect or defend or punish people who do crime.
For security experts, eliminating terrorism is a long-term mission which must be undertaken by government at all levels, with the active participation of citizens through diverse multi-sectoral approaches. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
To discuss more on this, security risk management consultant Mr. Don Okereke joins us live on the news at 10. A pleasure having you with us, Mr. Okereke.
Good evening, Melinda.
Now, from the background report we just saw, there appears to be some loopholes as observed by some of the consultants we interviewed there. No mention of payment of ransom or even penalties for the payment of ransom in the amended Terrorism Prevention Act. So what are your thoughts on the intention of the National Assembly to criminalize the payment of ransom?
Well, without mincing words, I will tell you, Melinda, that if eventually passed into law, this will not hold water. With due respect to the Senate, I think it will be a paper tiger law.
Why do you say so?
I say so because more often than not, kidnapping and crime generally are underreported in Nigeria. That is number one. Number two, according to statistics, more than 2,371 persons were kidnapped in Nigeria in the first 6 months of 2021, and 10 billion ransom were reportedly paid, according to research by SBM Intelligence. That tells you how pervasive this thing is. And that tells you, also the same research also says that 237 people lost their lives during such kidnapping incidents. That tells you that if a delay or anything happens, the kidnappers are likely to kill their victims.
Well, do you think that intermediaries between terrorists and government should also be penalized for the role they play, which sometimes can be interpreted as encouraging crime?
Well, it depends how you look at it. Nobody is supporting payment of ransom per se. Okay. It's not like we are justifying it. But there are extenuating circumstances which make people to pay such ransom. Just like I explained, the risk involved, makes people to rush to pay the ransom. Because more often than not, if such ransoms are not paid, it's likely that the victims will be killed.
But in other cases, Mr. Okereke, if I may, in other cases, the ransom is paid and the victims are also executed.
Yeah, but that is not the norm. More often than not, they need the money, not not to kill the victims. Like I give you an instance during the Kaduna Abuja train bombing incident. We understand one of the directors of the bank or some bank of agriculture also reportedly paid ransom before he was released. And 1 month into that kidnapping incident, most of the victims are still being held. That poses the question, where are these people being kept? Are there ungoverned territories in this country? What are the security agencies doing? Of course, they are doing a lot, but they cannot be everywhere at the same time. In my neck of the woods, I understand there were some kidnapping incidents that didn't make it to the national dailies or headlines. The statistics I gave you are just number of recorded or reported incidents. More often than not, these things are not reported. People go behind the scene and pay ransoms and secure release of their family members or loved ones.
Security Risk Management Consultant, Mr. Don Okereke, a pleasure sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much, Melinda. Thank you.
69,000 students have today written the Common Entrance Examination into government unity secondary schools in the country. And that's according to the Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Education, who went round schools in the Federal Capital Territory to monitor the exercise. He says the monitoring exercise is to help government identify the plans and the flaws in the process in order to correct them in future.
Whether we like it or not, as far as Nigerian basic education is concerned, and even extent secondary, junior and secondary school, the unity schools still remain one of the best. So for you to get in, it has to be competitive. So we are not looking at taking all the 69,000. We are looking at taking the best of the 69,000. And there are standards that measure what you take and how you move it. So that is no problem because the standards have been laid out. Once they finish the monitoring, we'll sit down, get all the reports, and look at what areas we need to improve on, because that is the essence of the monitoring. What do we need to do better next time? What do we need to improve upon? Thank you. And as the tradition of NECO, while he's here, he's also monitoring what is happening all over the country. And from reports he has gotten, the exercise is going on very well. And as I speak with you today, the Honorable Minister of State, Chukwuemeka Nwajuba, is also monitoring some centers in Lagos.
From education to agriculture, the lack of a storage system constitutes a major challenge to food security in the country. Of course, the federal government is vigorously pursuing. Besides accounting for huge losses in terms of quantity and quality of farm produce, it also reduces the level of income for farmers. Our next report takes a look at how poor storage of farm produce is affecting food supply and also the causes an increase in the price of food commodities.
54 years old Abubakar Noma owns this farm in Kuje, a satellite town in the FCT. Mr. Noma and members of his family are preparing for this year's farming season as they plant yams. He narrates his fears about growing his crops.
There is need for you to add that they need to empower also.
Back at his home, he leads us to his storage facility, which he uses in storing mostly grains and sometimes yam tubers. But he is counting his losses after last year's harvest.
Last year, 400 timbers of yam. I lost it because it had been spoiled because of the heat. And I used to keep it in bacha, and sunshine, you know, say bacha is very heat. So 400 timbers has been lost. It will cost me about 500,000 naira.
Food storage is particularly critical in Nigeria because of the sheer volume of food that goes to waste after harvest annually. From grains like rice, beans, soya beans and maize, which may get infected by insects such as weevils or molds, to tubers like yams and potatoes, which become rotten, and even vegetables and fruits, which wilt and rot.
You have yams during yams season.
We speak to an economist about what the government should be doing to address this challenge.
Planning is what is required to have a very robust storage system. How much of our population should we be able to feed with rice and beans in the next 8 months when bean season is over or rice season is over? So it's deliberate. It's something government must have a proper handle over.
Statistics from the Food and Agricultural Organization show that 50% of farmers in Nigeria lack access to storage facilities. While this is a source of concern to many, the Minister of Agriculture says the federal government has been putting together strategies to provide adequate storage facilities.
We have the rural development section in the ministry to provide good rural roads, electricity. We do sources of energy, water, to be able to have perishable goods can be brought to the market in good time since we have the road. And then with electricity, you can have now refrigerators and other cold storage that you can put.
Provision of adequate storage facilities is a key driver to the attainment of food security in the country. It is extremely important for government at all levels to holistically address this challenge of storage of farm produce to effectively meet the needs of Nigerians.
In a bid to encourage people to explore the health benefits of daily walking, Nigerian health organizations, Wike Community Foundation, Q Life Family Clinic and Health Emergency Initiative put together a roadwalk exercise in Lagos. Nigerians are encouraged to walk to at least for a minimum of 30 minutes daily and eat healthy in controlled portions.
As part of efforts aimed at contributing to the health and wellness of Nigerians, Wike Community International Foundation, Q Life Family Clinic, and Health Emergency Initiative collaborate to stage a road walk in Lekki, Lagos State. The road walk, which covers 5 kilometers, starts from the Catholic Church of Divine Mercy through Lekki environs and ends at the starting point.
We are here primarily to take part in what we call a fun waka with Q Life Family Clinic and HEI, led by Waka Community International. The purpose is to try and persuade Nigerians to pay more attention to their wellness.
The best thing is to prevent falling ill. And this is all about staying healthy, staying well, exercising, and keeping fit.
Medical experts say walking is the oldest and safest form of physical exercise and is non-discriminatory on grounds of age, gender, level of physical fitness, or location.
The beauty of walking is that it's a low-impact exercise, and it's good. There isn't too much difference between walking and jogging, so not everybody can jog, but everybody can walk.
Walking is one of the best kept secrets in the world. Walking has humongous benefits, including but not limited to the following. Walking helps us maintain healthy weight, helps us to keep away unwanted fat, helps us mitigate the issues of cardiovascular diseases and heart diseases.
Nigerians who care about health and wellness participate in the event.
I totally agree with what they have been saying about the benefits of walking. We can't overemphasize the need for exercises. On our own, we encourage that a lot.
I've been walking for a while because my walking is a part of my work. You don't need to spend money for it. You just get good shoes to walk with. And it's not a competition. 30 minutes is okay.
Organizers also provide first aid tips that can be vital during emergencies. They reiterate the fact that regular road walks allow individuals to take personal responsibility for their health.
Now let's find out what's happening in the world of business. Teniola Shobawali is standing by with the details. Thanks a lot, Melinda. Welcome to Business News. The UN Food Agency says that global food security remains a concern due to difficult market conditions. The FAO Food Price Index, which tracks the most globally traded food commodities, averaged 158.5 points last month against 159.7 points for March. However, the drop in April's index is 29.8% higher year-on-year, pushed up by concerns over the impact of the Ukraine war. The agency's cereal rice price index fell 0.7% in April after a 17% jump in March. Maize prices dropped 3.0%, while wheat prices rose 0.2%. In March, FAO had warned that food and feed prices could rise up by up to 20% as a result of the conflict in Ukraine, raising the risk of increased malnutrition. Nigeria's foreign exchange reserve has continued its downtrend, according to data from the Central Bank of Nigeria. The latest from the CBN shows that FX reserves decreased by $152.55 million to $39.43 billion as at May the 4th. The drop in forex inflows can be credited to shortfalls in crude production despite rise in global oil prices. Trading activity at the FMDQ exchange was negative this week as the total turnover of transactions carried out at the FX spot, forwards and futures markets fell by 56.58% to $409.36 million as at May the 6th. A further analysis of trading results shows that total value of transactions at the FX spot market, that's the I&E window, dropped by 63.17% to $303.09 million, while the FX derivatives market turnover fell by 11.31% to $106.26 million. Also, the Naira depreciated slightly by 0.03% to 416 Naira 96 kobo against the dollar at the Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange window
of the forex market, in contrast to 416 naira 84 kobo recorded last week. And tech billionaire Elon Musk says he plans to increase Twitter's annual revenue to $26.4 billion by 2028, up from $5 billion last year. According to Musk, advertising will fall to 45% of total revenue, down from about 90% in 2020, generating $12 billion in revenue in 2028, while subscriptions are expected to pull in another $10 billion. The Tesla CEO also aims to increase Twitter's cash flow to $3.2 billion in 2025 and $9.4 billion in 2028. Back home, the bullish momentum in the equities market was sustained despite the two-day public holiday, as bargain hunting activities in blue-chip stocks pushed the all-share index above the 50,000 level to close at 50,937.01 points, the highest level since March 2008. Investors' demand for bellwether stocks such as Presco, Guinness, Nigerian breweries, Okumo Oil, Boa Cement, and MTN Nigeria drove the benchmark index 2.6% higher. However, activity levels were weaker than in the prior week, as volume and value traded decreased by 24.6% and 16.9% each week on week. Sectoral performance was mostly positive as the consumer goods, industrial goods and banking indexes advanced, while the insurance and oil and gas counters closed in the red. Champion Breweries topped the gainers chart for the week, while Owando led the laggards. The trio of Union Bank, FCMB Group and Transnational Corporation, PLC, contributed 34.26% and 11.89% to the total volume and value traded in the week. Similarly, the NASD OTC Securities Exchange Index closed the week positive. The NASD Securities Index rose by 1.33%. The exchange gained about 12 billion naira in value. However, there was a drop in total turnover. Volume and value traded for the week fell to 2.05 million units and 176 million naira each. President Campina Wamco led the gainers, while Central Securities Clearance System led the decliners. Meanwhile, President Campina Wamco and 11 PLC were among top stocks traded by value for the week. And that's business news tonight. I'm Teniola Shibowale. It's back to Melinda.
Many thanks, Teniola. On the international scene, Ukraine says all women, children and the elderly have been evacuated from Mariupol steelworks. The Deputy Prime Minister says this part of the humanitarian operations is now complete. The operation to rescue civilians trapped there began a week ago. Here's more on this and other developments.
Ukraine says the evacuation of civilians from the Azovstal steelworks in Mariupol, the last remaining Ukrainian stronghold in the city, marks a turning point. Russia has besieged the plant for weeks, demanding the surrender of its defenders from the Azov battalion. In other developments, intense fighting is continuing in the Kharkiv region of Ukraine as troops attempt to regain control of the area from the Russians. It comes after Ukraine's armed forces claim they had taken 5 villages northeast of the country's second-largest city. 4 missiles have hit the port city of Odessa, with locations around the airport targeted and radar equipment destroyed. No casualties have been reported. And air-launched Russian missiles have also hit 2 locations in Sumy, a city in northern Ukraine near the Russian border. In Kyiv, the mayor's office has released videos showing the damage wrought on buildings as a result of strikes around the Ukrainian capital.
According to officials, more than 200 residential buildings, 46 schools and 30 kindergartens have been damaged in strikes on Kyiv since Russia's invasion on February the 24th. And finally, Russian forces have taken part in a rehearsal in Moscow's Red Square for the country's Victory Day parade. President Vladimir Putin will lead celebrations on Monday, marking the 77th anniversary of the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany, brandishing Russia's vast firepower. The annual military parade in Moscow's Red Square has a new significance this year as Russian forces continue their two-month assault in Ukraine.
Sinn Féin will be the largest party in the Northern Ireland Assembly for the first time, pushing the Democratic Unionist Party, DUP, into second place. It has 27 seats compared to the DUP's current tally of 24. The result means Michelle O'Neill will be entitled to become the first minister, unprecedented for a nationalist. Earlier, she said the election marks a defining moment for the British-controlled region.
Today represents a very significant moment of change. It's a defining moment for our politics and for our people. Today ushers in a new era, which I believe presents us all with an opportunity to reimagine relationships in this society on the basis of fairness, on the basis of equality, and on the basis of social justice. Irrespective of religious, political or social backgrounds, my commitment is to make politics work. My commitment is to work through partnership, not division. We will work with those who serve all other political perspectives. We will work together. We will show respect, and we expect to be shown respect.
On sports news, Ayotunde Balogun will be telling us about the new sensation in the world of tennis, amongst other stories.
Yes, indeed, Melinda. Spain's teenage rising star Carlos Alcaraz shocked world number 1 Novak Djokovic in a 3-set thriller to reach the Madrid Open final. The 19-year-old followed up his quarter-final win over Rafa Nadal with a 6-7, 7-5, 7-6 victory over the Serbian. Alcaraz becomes the first player to beat the 21-time Grand Slam champion Nadal and 20-time major winner Djokovic on consecutive days on a clay court. In the second semi-final, Stefanos Tsitsipas and Alexander Zverev are battling it out for a place in the Madrid Open final. At the moment, Zverev has won the first set by 6-4. Tunisia's Ons Jabeur has won the first WTA 1000 title of her career, but Jabeur beat Jessica Pegula 7-5, love 6, 6-2 today in the women's singles final at the Madrid Open. The 8th seed bounced back from a second set blip to win her second tour title. In the English Premier League, 2 goals in 79 first-half seconds set Brentford on their way to a comfortable 3-0 victory over Southampton. Elsewhere, Burnley's survival chances suffered a huge setback against Aston Villa at Turf Moor after they lost their game. Wolves captain Conor Cody headed in an added-time equaliser to deny Chelsea victory at Stamford Bridge as the keenly contested encounter ended 2-2. Watford have been relegated after Wilfried Zaha's first-half penalty secured a deserved 1-0 victory for Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. In other games, Brighton hammered Manchester United 4-0 at the Amex, and at Anfield, Tottenham Hotspur held Liverpool to a 1-0 draw as the Reds dropped 2 points in the title race. International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach has visited the Olympic City, Brisbane, host of the 2032 Games. He told the organisers that having travelled to Fiji, Tonga and the Pacific Islands, he feels the anticipation from people shows the Olympics is for the whole region.
And I can say, because I have been travelling in the meantime in the Pacific, that these Olympic Games will not only be games in Australia and for Australia, this will be Olympic Games with the whole Pacific region. Everywhere it's a great anticipation of these games, Brisbane 2032. To keep this enthusiasm alive, to maintain this momentum, this is the most important. We see now the Olympic spirit truly alive here in Brisbane and Queensland and Australia.
Simon Yates of Team Bike Exchange JACO has won the second stage of the Giro d'Italia, a 9.2-kilometer individual time trial around Budapest. However, Matteo van der Poel of Alpecin Phoenix held onto the leader's pink jersey. A British rider Yates finished with a time of 11 minutes 50 seconds, 3 seconds ahead of van der Poel. Our Team Jumbo-Visma rider Tom Dumoulin came third, finishing 5 seconds behind Yates. That's sports news. I'm Hayatudeen. Balogun, back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Hayatudeen. And the main news again. Tough times may be beckoning in the aviation sector as airline unions have threatened to disrupt activities in the coming days. A shutdown of the industry over a perennial hike in aviation fuel. Minister of Aviation asked unions to shelve the strike. Also today, the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele has rejected all Progressive Congress forms bought for him, just as 28 coalition groups today paid for APC presidential nomination forms for AFDB President Akinwumi Adesina. I'm Melinda Akinlami. On behalf of the team, good night.